Now that we've created a set of style rules for our HTML document, we can now start revisiting the HTML and looking at the source code. We know that when we work in the design view or in our code view, text will come on the screen from left to right and fill from left to right, top to bottom. But we need to give it some structure, and to do so we need to actually start making containers. And these containers will actually hold other tags and which we can apply CSS rules to. So to create a dynamic looking page, we'll need to set up a series of containers that will hold the different parts of our page design, such as the header and the footer area. We'll be doing this by adding div containers to our page. So we'll be declaring div tags. Our HTML div element is just a defined region that we can apply things such as size, color, and placement on the screen to. Now these div tags are important as they can hold other HTML elements that are defined within a region. We can also nest div tags inside our declared div tags to create complex layouts that we can apply individual styles to. So what we'll do is have a look at the structure of the website we're going to create by going into Photoshop to show you a simple layout. So what we're going to create is an outer container. And it's going to have a div name of outer container, and this will define this area on our page. We're going to have a 50 pixel margin at the top, which will give us a little gap at the top of the page to see our background tile that goes through there. Next of all, we're going to find another area called insert container. This is going to set with 50 pixels in from the edge and 50 pixels this side as well. It would sit inside the outer container and be called the insert container. Once we've got that established, we'll create a navigation container that will be inside those three containers. So when we're looking at navigation, this will sit inside the insert container and sit at the top portion of this box, or the red box. So what we have is a box inside of a box with another box inside of that. This will be called hashtag Nav Container, or we might actually just call it Nav. Once we've done that, it's going to have a 50 pixel margin from the left and from the right, and then we'll be able to add in our header underneath that with the same margins, and then our content will go in underneath that. This will be our main work area, and in here we'll probably place something like a hero image. We might have a couple of columns to control information, have some content down the bottom, and last of all, what we need on a web page is our footer down the bottom. So the content area will be really important. This is where everything's going to be, but we can see the structural containers that we need to create div tags for. So let's go ahead and make these areas that we can stylize. Now that we're back in Dreamweaver, the first thing I'm going to do is clear any content that's on the page. So using the design view, I'm just going to select that and delete it. Otherwise, if there's still code and things like that over in the code side, just delete that out. So this makes sure there is nothing in the body, which means our web page is blank and ready to be used. Now, at the moment, I'm going to click back in the design view. So if you're in live view, change to design view. I'm going to be at this point in the top left hand corner of my document, just after the body tag, at our insertion point. And I want to use the insert. And what we're going to do is insert a div tag. Now we're only ever going to use this once, so it's going to be at the insertion point and it's going to have an ID. And this ID is going to be the outer container. And then I'm going to select a new CSS rule to add some styles to our new div. Another window will open to show us that we're making a new CSS rule for outer container. And this is a new rule and with a new ID. You also notice that outer container has a hash symbol at the start. Dreamweaver automatically places this in for us for div tags that are defined by a hashtag, which is different to a class, which is actually defined by a full stop, or a structural tag such as H1, H2, which has no symbols before them. And what we want to do is make sure that the rule is being applied to our global CSS by selecting that and clicking on OK. Now once we've done that, you notice that we're using the old version of the CSS rule developer and we're not using the CSS designer. You can either use A or B, it's up to you. But we must know that it's actually writing a global CSS, which we'll look at in a moment. First of all, we're going to select on the box category on the left. And for the margin, we're going to unselect same for all. And at the top, we want a 50 pixel break as per our previous design. And then we'll click on OK and OK. And you'll notice that we have 50 pixel break at the top with a container ID called outer container. The information goes here. If we look at our global CSS, we'll actually see there is an outer container with a margin top of 50 pixels. Remember to command save and save all as you go along. Then what we'll do is head back to the source code. Now we can make the container for our inset container. This will reside inside our outer container, so therefore we want the code to appear within the open div tag and the closed div tag. Now at the moment there's some text in here and a span. I'm just going to delete those, and this div tag here belongs to the outer container. So in my code I'm just going to comment tag for HTML and put outer container there as well. This way our internal documentation, you know that this div tag and this div tag belong together. So when I create the next div tag inside of here, so once again we're going to go up to insert, select the div. We're only going to have one of these, so we can give it an ID, and it's going to be called inset container, and we're going to create a new rule. Once again, it's going to be a global CSS rule, so it'll be in our major page, and it's automatically put the hash symbol in front. We're going to select on OK and use the old method, and we're going to first of all go down in the box, and we're going to give it a margin. On the left we want a 25 pixel margin on the right, and on the left we also want 25 pixels. We would also like to have a border as well, and the style is going to be solid on the right and also on the left. So we're going to select solid, and then the width of the pixel border is just going to be 1. We're also going to select a color for this, so it's not the same for all, and we're going to use the color D7, 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 and for this color as well, D7, D7, D7. And then we're going to click on OK, and then click on OK, and you can now see our inset container is sitting inside of our outer container. Now once again, I'm going to use this little comment tag here, copy and paste that up. Now remember, on the end of your comment tag you need to put the 2 dashes as well to make sure that the comment tag ends, and we can delete the information there now. So we have a container inside of a container. So you can see where the start of one div tag starts and ends, and the other one starts and ends. I'll just delete that one back there so they all sit nicely together. So these 2 nested div containers are designed to set up some basic margins as well as center some content on our page, and now we need to stack 4 other div containers within inside this. To create the nav container first, we need to go inside the 2 div tags, and once again select up the top, so we're inside that insertion point, insert a div container. You can go in at this point, sometimes before, after tag, but I normally look for the insertion point, so make sure that you're in there. And because nav is only used once, so we can create an ID for this and give it an ID of nav container and click on new CSS rule. Once again, the hashtag is applied to the div tag because it's a structural tag and the CSS, and click on OK. Now we can set up some styles for our nav container. Click on the background and we'll set up a nice light grey background color by using F8, F8, F8. And in the box category, we're going to fix the width so that it only has a height of 40 pixels. So far we've added margins to our elements, and now we're going to have a look at adding padding. Margin adds space to the outside of an object, where padding adds space on the inside of an object. So we want to enter in 50 pixels for the right and also the left. And we want to add a decorative border, so we're going to add a thicker border to the top and a dotted line to the bottom. And bottom we select dotted. And for width we're going to have 10 pixels for the top border and 1 pixel for the bottom border. For the top border we're going to select a nice dark grey colour of 444444. Otherwise, for short, you can just enter in 3 4s. And for the bottom, we're going to enter in a nice light grey with a DDD. Then click OK to see our new nav container. Now we want to enter in a div called header, and this will happen just after our navigation container. So once again, I'm going to copy this up and make sure you put the right labels in. So I'm just going to change these over. So this is our nav container, and this one here belongs to our inset container. And this is going to occur, I'm going to delete the text out of here and press enter. Now this is going to occur at the same level, so this is still inside the insert container and not residing within inside our nav container, but just underneath our nav container, so it'll appear underneath this box. Now to do this, I'm going to actually enter it manually, and I'm going to go div id equals header, and you have to place that in quotes, and then we need to close that ID off. So this div now belongs to header, so I'm now going to copy this comment down and change this to header. So you can now see that these reside inside the outer container. Then we have the inset container followed by the nav container. So they stack one underneath the other. Now we need to give our header some properties. And to do this, we're going to head over to our CSS designer. I'm going to add a new rule. You notice it's come up with the nested containers. And I'm going to use my up and down arrows by pushing up, reducing the actual cascading level. So I can have the outer container, insert container, header container. But what I want to deal with is just the header. So I'm pushing the up arrow just to get to header and pressing enter. Now once I'm here, I want to set the height of the box. And to do this, I'm actually going to head into my CSS and head down to the bottom where the last created one is, which is header, and press enter. So in here I want to set the height, and that's going to be 77 pixels. PX is short for pixels. I also want to have some padding, so I want padding, and I want the top padding to be 5 pixels. Then I want to have the right padding, colon, and the right padding is going to be 50 pixels. And then we're going to have some padding on the bottom. Make sure you put semicolons after everything. And the bottom padding is going to be 5 pixels as well. And then I would like some padding on the left. And this padding is going to be 50 pixels to be consistent with the other containers. And I now want to set a bottom border, which is going to be 1 pixel. It's also going to be solid, and it's going to have a color of EE and semicolon. And then when I click over my container, you can see that the containers appeared with the information shown. Just straighten my code up a little. So from our structure of our page, we've already created 2 containers inside our inset container. So we still have 2 more to go. So what we'll do now is add the other 2. So now we're going to add the content and footer divs. So once again, I'm going to copy header and just paste that in. And this is going to be now content. And then I'm going to add the footer in. Now if we straighten these tags out, you'll notice that the header, just indent this one, bring this one back, and bring this one back. You notice there's 1, 2, 3, 4 containers inside the inset container. If we marry these ones up, that reside inside of our outer container, which gives us all our nested areas. And we can see the start and the end of each of the containers as we work through this structural change. What we need to do now is stylize these. So what we want to do is add some information to the content and to the footer. So let's go do this manually in our global CSS. So once again, I'm going to head in underneath my header one. First of all, I want to actually stylize my content. And this is going to be the main area of our website. So this is where all the information is going to go. So I want some padding, and at the top I want 20 pixels. I also want the right padding, bottom padding, and left padding. So let's just start picking these out of the pull down list. So we'll go right, and once again I want 50 pixels on the right, and then I want bottom 25 pixels, and left I want 50. Now I want to set a bottom border. It's going to be 1 pixel. It's going to be dotted and have the same color as DDDD, or DDD, sorry. So that concludes the stylising of our content. Now we can stylize our footer by going straight in and once again using the hash symbol to get it to call the footer tag. It's giving us a list of all our div tags that we've declared in our structure, selecting footer. Once again, we want to use the padding. So we want top padding, right padding, bottom padding, left padding. So I'm actually going to copy this one from our header and recycle that down here. And we want our footer to have a 10 pixel top. We want it to have 50 pixels, 10 pixels from the bottom, and then 50 pixels. We're happy to have a 1 pixel solid, and we're going to use the color again of D7, D7, D7 to give it the same color as before. The only other thing we might want to have is a background color for our footer, so I'm just going to put this at the top. So we're going to go to background color, and what color do we want to use? We're going to use the F8 one again. Remember to put the hashtag in front. So to see the structural tags and the construction of our website, we're just going to go back into our code. Remember to save as you go. So I'm just save the style sheet with the Command S. And what I'm going to do in between each of these, so I'm just going to put a comment in here, say outer container. Then we've got the inset. Then we have the navigation. Then I've got header. Then I've got content and footer. So you can actually see where all these are sitting. As you notice from this layout, the content is sitting against the margin. So to go back to our CSS, underneath our content, we need to check that we've got it. And you notice that here we've got PM rather than PX. So once I change that and look for the update, you notice now that the website has pulled back into order. Remember to save this. So the design view and the live view help us see that we don't make any mistakes as we go through. Now we've set up the structure of our website and created all the containers that we need to hold our content. Now we can start adding assets to our website.